can help or whatever. But the thing is, I was trying to tell them, look, maybe I can help y'all. It's like, y'all have phone service? And they're like, no. I was like, well, I got a hotspot, But they just didn't seem real interested in me trying to, help them or whatever. Like, they were cool, but they just kind of just wanted, but like I said, they weren't tweakers, but they were so paranoid about the lights being on inside, like flashlight that someone could see from the outside. And I'm like, there's no fucking buddy out there, like nobody can see in here, you know what I mean?
Guilty, Mr.
But the thing is, I wanted to play loud music. I wanted to do a broadcast.
Guilty,
I wanted to turn my light pole on in there. I wanted to have a fucking Periscope party and a cool ass. This restaurant was cool, dude. Like, really.
Guilty.
It was fucking cool.
Is Klobuchar.
So, yeah, I know. But anyways, I gave him $10. All I had left in I've got Cash App money, but I had $10 in cash in my pocket, from just somebody had given it to me, a couple days ago. So, I said, well, look, I was like, I'm going to take off. I was like, because, I basically want to be loud and play music. If y'all are, going to be like this, y'all are worried about shit, then I'm just going to take off because I need electricity anyways. Sean, I do. I'm going to get it when I get back to Austin, so I appreciate the effort. But anyway, so all I had in my pocket was a $10 bill. So, I gave him $10 and basically just said, good luck, y'all. I'm going to do it somewhere else. So, but isn't that, yes, that's what I'm saying, Brian. They were new to squatting and they had no idea what to do. That's what I'm trying to say. They weren't tweakers. They were just normal people that just got fucked over and they didn't know what to do.
Murphy.
But like I said, they were just so, they were just so
Guilty.
uptight.
Mrs. Murray.
No, I don't want a fake passport.
Guilty.
They were just so
Mr.
uptight
Paul.
and just scared about getting busted for being inside the restaurant that they were going to get busted because of their paranoia.
Not guilty.
You know what I'm saying?
Mr.
But I'm
Peters.
I'm trying to relax. I do this for a living. They did.
Guilty.
So like that
Mr.
I'm just saying, it
Portman.
just wasn't comfortable. But it wasn't because
Not
they were
guilty.
assholes. They were really
Mr.
nice.
Reed.
And they were even telling me, nah, man, you're good. You don't have to
Guilty.
leave. We just
Mr.
put the
Risch.
flashlights on and shit, Maybe
Not
Stacy.
guilty.
But anyways,
Mr.
like I said, I gave
Roberts.
him $10 and then I left.
Not guilty.
Well, I gave him
Mr.
$10 and
Romney.
2 sausage biscuits that I had from the morning and I
Not
left.
guilty. Ms. Rosen.
And and to me it's just like, I walk out the
Guilty.
door and I
Mr.
have to say,
Rounds.
I said, I thought to myself,
Not
I said,
guilty. Mr. Rubio.
I really am blessed. I'm really
Not
blessed
guilty.
in the
Mr.
sense that I'm
Sanders.
homeless and I can afford to give 2 other people
Guilty.
$10,
Mr.
my last $10
Sass.
cash, before I leave.
Not guilty. Mr. Schuck.
Well, anyway, it's probably time to get up.
Guilty. Mr. Schumer.
It's not raining anymore.
Guilty. Mr.
Alright,
Scott
it's
of
time to get up.
Florida.
There's other cars coming, so I'm just
Asshole.
Not guilty. Mr. Scott of South Carolina.
let's just get going. I don't want to be
Not
here.
guilty. Mr. Shaheen.
But I'm just saying, it just felt good to be like,
Guilty.
I'm
Mr.
like,
Shelby.
I can stay down.
Not guilty.
Then I can,
Ms.
give
Cinema.
other people. But like I said,
Guilty.
because they weren't squatters.
Ms. Smith.
Like I said, they weren't. Just stay down, guys.
Guilty. Ms. Stabenow.
Like I said,
Guilty.
they were just
Mr.
regular
Sullivan.
people that just had a bad.
Not
bad
guilty.
luck,
Mr.
you know what I'm
Tester.
saying? I'd be quite nice.
Guilty. Mr. Thune.
Howdy.
Not guilty. Mr. Tillis.
Stay down. Stay down. Yeah, about to have
Not
services
guilty.
or something.
Mr. Toomey. Not
Oh, are
guilty.
you?
Mr. Udall.
Okay,
Guilty.
Chalmers,
Mr.
come on.
Van Hollen.
Hang on a second. Okay.
Guilty. Mr.
I'm leaving
Warner.
anyways. It's time. I gotta do something. So.
Guilty. Ms. Warren.
I gotta get back on the road.
Guilty. Mr. Whitehouse.
I got another one in here, but he's the lazy one.
Guilty. Mr. Wicker.
All right, come here, John. Come here.
Not guilty. Mr. Wyden.
Really?
Guilty. Mr.
Well, I can
Young.
only fit 2 in the trailer, so that's
Not
what I can do.
guilty.
You too. Thank you.
There you have
Like I
it.
said, so I helped him
Number
out.
two,
And you know what? I
President
actually
Trump
think that,
State party line vote.
I don't want to admit it because sometimes
Republicans
I don't want
47
people
for
to be like,
guilty.
well, damn, I
All
sent this guy
Democrats.
money and then he sends it to other
They will
people
tell
and I
her the
didn't bring
ruling
it up.
out.
But,
The
you
Chief
know, like,
Justice will announce the
there's a
verdict.
couple people on Periscope
And then
that are also,
the trial will be
not
adjourned.
Woohoo!
so blessed.
Somewhat quicker trial than the
And
one
so,
faced
you
by
know, like
President
Tim
Clinton back in
Fan, he doesn't really
1999.
come to broadcast much
He was
anymore,
stretched
but,
on
he's
after
homeless,
their
like,
depositions
or
for
something like that,
witnesses
lives in his
for
car.
several weeks.
Every now and then I'll get like a Cash App request from him for like, $5 or
Chief
something like
Justice now
that.
looking
An
at the
average,
tally.
hey, I need $5, for
On this
folks,
article of impeachment,
phone
47
service, or like,
senators have
I ran out
pronounced
of gas on the
Donald John
side of the
Trump,
road, I
President
just
of the
need $3,
United States,
to
guilty
be able
as
to get to the
charged.
next gas station or
53
whatever.
senators
So I
have
sent it
pronounced
to
him
him,
not guilty
but it
as
feels good,
charged.
it feels good to be
Two-thirds
like,
of the senators present
that
not having pronounced him
I've been
guilty
doing enough they
Senate
should,
of
and
Judges
people
that
help me out
responded,
enough that I can
Donald
do
John
that.
Trump,
But like I said, I
President
just
of the
don't
United
talk
States,
about it
is
much
not guilty as
because I don't
charged
want
in the
people
second
to
article
know.
of impeachment.
You know,
Woo!
damn, I said this guy
Yeah.
money, and then sometimes he sends
Yeah,
me
The
baby.
presiding
I
officer
didn't,
directs
one
judgment to be
tenth or
entered in
10.
accordance
Yes.
with the judgment of the Senate as
Sometimes I do.
follows.
So like I said, I
The
get 10
Senate
bucks.
having tried Donald John Trump, President of the United States,
Like I said,
upon
you know,
Haha.
charges of
if they were
impeachment
regular homeless people,
exhibited against
you
him
know what I
by the
mean?
House of
Like
Representatives,
that were
and
just crashed out
2/3 of the
there.
senators
Normally
present
I would
not
like give
having
them
found
shit
him
because like,
guilty
hey,
of the charges
go
contained
do your own
therein,
thing.
it
This
is
your life,
therefore
But
ordered
like I
and
said, they were
adjudged
just a
that the
normal couple.
said Donald John Trump be, and he is
Now I
hereby
think the other people that
acquitted
were in
of
there.
the
Thank you. Woohoo, motherfucker.
The majority
Hell
leader is
yeah.
recognized. I sent an order to the desk. The clerk will
Beautiful,
report.
baby. Damn straight. That's right. Not guilty, fucker.
Order that the Secretary be directed to communicate to the Secretary of State as provided by Rule 23 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate when sitting on impeachment trials, and also to the House of Representatives the judgment of the Senate in the case of Donald John Trump, and transmit a certified copy of the judgment to each.
Entered. Mr. Chief Justice. The majority leader is ready. Before this process fully concludes, I want to very quickly acknowledge a few of the people who helped the Senate fulfill our duty these past weeks. First and foremost, I know my colleague joined me in thanking Chief
Dumbasses.
Justice Roberts for presiding over the Senate trial with a clear head, steady hand, and the forbearance that this rare occasion demands.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, yeah. He's got a big smile on his face.
Came in addition to non-set up his day job across the street. So the Senate thanks the Chief Justice and his staff who helped him perform this unique role. Like his predecessor, Chief Justice Rehnquist, the Senate will be awarding Chief Justice Roberts the Golden Gavel. To commemorate his time presiding over this body, we typically award this to new senators after about 100 hours in the chair, but I think we can agree the Chief Justice
Well, the
has put
plan
in
was I'm going to
his
start
duty
writing,
and
but
then
it's
some.
going to be very, very slow because I don't want to get sprayed with the rain. But right now I'm just getting up to go find something to eat.
Page is delivering the gavel.
A cup of cold coffee.
Thank you very much. Of course, there are countless Senate professionals whose efforts were essential.
Definitely because the
I
weather's
have more
probably going to be crappy.
thorough thanks to offer next week to all of those things, from the Secretary of the Senate's office to the parliamentarians, to the Sergeant at Arms team, and beyond. But there are two more groups I'd like to single out now. First, the two different classes of Senate pages who participated in this trial. Their footwork and cool under pressure literally kept the floor running. Our current class came on board right in the middle of the third presidential impeachment trial in American history, and quickly found themselves hand-delivering 180 question cards from senators' desks to the dais. No pressure, right, guys? So thank you all very much for your good work.
That's so cold with these things, of course, feel like we're going to break.
And second, the fine men and women of the Capitol Police, we know that the safety of our democracy literally rests in their hands every single day. But the heightened measures surrounding the trial meant even more hours,
Like I
and
said,
even more
those
work,
people,
and even more
I realize
vigilance.
it's,
Thank you all very much for your service to this body and to the country.
daylight outside, we're going to flashlights, but like I said, those people in there, like I said, they just weren't relaxed enough for me
The chair recognizes the Democratic leader.
I join the
Well, that's our
Republican
man,
leader in thanking
so-
the personnel who aided the Senate over
Well,
the past
it's
several
12 years,
years.
like I said.
Capitol Police do an outstanding
we've had
job
a
day
really,
in, day
really
out
light
to protect the members of this chamber, their staffs, the press, and everyone who works in and visits this Capitol. They were asked to work extra shifts and in greater numbers to provide additional security over the past 3 weeks. Thank you to every one of them. I too would like to
Aw,
thank those wonderful
Chucky.
pages I so much giving
Oh,
justice for our
Chucky.
questions. As the leader noted, the new class of pages started midway in this impeachment trial. When you take a new job, you're usually given a few days to take stock of things, get up to speed. This class was given no such leeway, but they stepped right in, didn't miss a beat, ferrying hundreds of questions from U.S. senators to the Chief Justice on national television is not how most of us spend our first week at work.
I mean, that's rain with snow.
But they did it with the plum.
That was so awesome.
I'd also like to extend my personal thank you to David Houck, the director
Like I said,
of
if it
the
was snowing
Office
right
of
now, I would
Accessibility
be
Services,
a lot better
Tyler
off.
Pumphrey, the supervisor, and Grace Ridgway, the wonderful director of Capitol Facilities. Everyone Grace's team worked so hard to make sure we were ready for impeachment. Gary Richardson, known affectionately to us as Tiny, the chief chamber attendant. Jim Hoover and the cabinet shop, who built new cabinets to deprive us of the use of our electronics and flip phones during the trial. Brenda Bird, Brenda Bird and her team did a spectacular job of keeping the Capitol clean, and Lyden Webb and his team will move the furniture and then moved it again and again and again. Grace, we appreciate all your hard work. Please convey our sincerest thanks to your staff.
Okay.
Thank you all, the whole staff, for your diligent work through many long days and late nights during this very trying time in our nation's history.
This Chief
And
Justice.
the chair also wishes to make a very brief statement. I would like to begin by thanking the Majority Leader and the Democratic Leader for their support as I attempted to carry out ill-defined responsibilities in an unfamiliar setting. They ensured that I had the wise counsel of the Senate itself through its secretary and her legislative staff. I am especially grateful to the parliamentarian and her deputy for their unfailing patience and keen insight. I am likewise grateful to the Sergeant-at-Arms and his staff for the assistance and many courtesies that they extended during my period of required residency. And thank you all for making my presence here as comfortable as possible. As I depart the chamber, I do so with an invitation to visit the court. By long tradition and in memory of the 135 years we sat in this building, we keep the front row of the gallery in our courtroom open for members of Congress who might want to drop by to see an argument or to escape one. I also depart with sincere good wishes as we carry out our common commitment to the Constitution through the distinct roles assigned to us by that charter. You have been generous hosts, and I look forward to seeing you again under happier circumstances. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
I move that the Senate, sitting as a court of impeachment on the articles against Donald John
Part is when I start writing.
Trump, adjourn, sine die.
Without objection, the motion is agreed to. The Senate, sitting as a court of impeachment, stands adjourned, sine die.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Chief Justice will now be escorted from the chamber.
It's a great day in America, folks. A great day in America.
To a close, thanking the senators for their work, for their
I had eye surgery and
several weeks, and
I was resting, and I just had to picture this moment on my YouTube channel.
we've not had two
I mean, this is remarkable. This is fabulous.
presidents impeached by the House, acquitted by the Senate. I want to start with Terry Moran.
Absolutely, absolutely wonderful.
When he was defending the president on the Senate floor, prosecuted President Clinton, defended President Trump, and wooed what he called the age of impeachment.
The age of impeachment, which he, as you pointed out, was one of the instigators of. But if it becomes just another weapon in partisan warfare, then it does undermine the scheme of constitutional government. This verdict will be part of that, no question about it. I thought it would be an anticlimax since we mostly knew what was going to happen. But it was the weight of history, the weight of personal judgment was hanging over that Senate chamber, and now what to make of the conduct of President Trump as revealed in this impeachment process is up to the voters. It doesn't look like they're very much concerned about it to the point where it will be the make or break issue in the election. But the votes of those Democrats from red states, especially Doug Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, Doug Jones of Alabama, and Mitt Romney they do show that maybe there is a center in this partisan warfare, that the president did wrong, and that he cannot be completely exonerated. I think the problem is for Democrats going forward, though, they spent years trying to drive this president from office through impeachment. What was the opportunity cost of that? Are they only known before the voters in the fall as the party of outrage and contempt? They'll need more.
That is going to be up to the voters to decide, Pierre Thomas. It will be up to the voters to determine the fate of President Trump, whether he stays in the White House. But meantime, the courts continue their work.
That's right. Let the people vote. Let the people vote on who they want.
George, absolutely right. Unclear how this unfolds in the near future, except that we will learn more.
Well, I don't know, John. I'm going to find out.
By the former National Security Advisor John
Bolton. They definitely take a lot longer to charge.
Southern District of New York prosecutors there and the FBI continue to investigate
right, because the thing is, I actually have 18
the former ambassador to
separate
the
lithium
Ukraine,
batteries in
Marie
the book. Like, I have a pretty large battery
plays
pack.
a role in that
So
investigation.
because of
We
that,
understand
I mean, you know,
being looked
even
at
if they're not performing
as well as
well,
the
they're still
activity of
performing
two of
enough
his
to get
close
me going.
colleagues,
So,
Igor Fruman and
A
Lev
sail?
Parnas, who were
Is it really that
involved in
cold
the
there?
efforts to dig up
It feels like
dirt
it's
on
colder here.
Joe Biden
Yeah, that
and his
Pelosi
son.
thing with her
So
tearing up the
much more to come. We'll have to
Why would
see
she do
how
that?
the American public views it.
John
Like
Carl, up
complains that
until
he's
his defection by Mitt Romney, the president's hold on the Republican Party actually strengthened over the course of this impeachment proceedings in the House and the trial
Well, like I said,
in the Senate. Yet he also does have to contend
I'm
with
headed that
even
general
though senators
direction, but
voted
it's
to
going to be
acquit
slow
him,
going.
not all
I know.
said that
Like,
what he
listen,
did
you
was
know,
appropriate.
as far as I'm, you know, look,
Several of them said
if I didn't
that
know
they
that,
thought it was
which I actually don't know
inappropriate, that
that,
he shouldn't have done it.
I would
Susan
say
Collins of
that the
Maine actually went
Democratic
so far as
Party
to say that she
supports
believes
Trump,
that the
and
president
that they're just
learned
secretly
from
trying
this
to
experience
support
and
him
he would act
without
differently in the
making
future.
it look
There's
obvious.
no evidence of
You know
that,
what I mean?
though,
Because
George,
everything
in the record
they
here.
do,
The president,
you know,
throughout
but
this
doing
process
something
from
like
day
that,
one,
tearing up
insisted
the
he
speech
did
at the
absolutely
end,
nothing
yeah,
wrong.
that just makes
And
people
even
feel
though
like,
you
God,
did hear some of
childish,
those
pathetic, and,
Republicans who
you know.
ultimately voted to acquit, be critical of him,
No, because the batteries
by
are
and
built
large,
into the bottom of the
most of the
trailer.
Republican Party in the Congress
They weigh like
and apparently
150
in the
pounds.
country at large agreed with that. In fact, his
Okay, yeah, like I said,
standing
I'm going to go
overall,
slow. I'm going to
his
go get something
approval
to eat
ratings
first, and then so
right
once I get
now
inside,
are as high as they have ever been.
and,
The Gallup poll, the highest it has
once
ever
I get
been just
inside
this week.
somewhere,
Yeah, approaching 50% at 49%. Cecilia, we just heard from Pierre Thomas that John Bolton still has that book coming out. We also learned
I normally
today that
don't
he's
go
quite
into
likely
places
to
and
be
leave the
called as
dogs
a witness
outside
in the
and
House.
all
The House Judiciary Chair
Still
Jerry
come
Nadler said
outside and
today
just
said
sit with them.
such, and basically is implying that these investigations will continue to go on. But it's not a done
All right,
deal.
I gotta go.
There's still division
Yeah,
among
that's what I'm
Democrats
saying,
over
but it's
whether
like, you know,
that's
it
the
feels
right
like
move
that
to
I
do.
really
We
support
don't know
Trump,
how
but I
Nancy
still want
Pelosi
people to
feels
know,
about that.
because,
We know how
hey,
long it took her
I
to
mean,
get to
there's a
this
lot of
point
people that
to
do
come
that.
to
I mean,
impeachment.
especially
Bolton
black
has
people.
suggested
I mean, and
that he would
Hispanics.
be willing to
There's a
testify. We've
lot
been talking about that
of
in
black
recent
people
weeks.
and
That was one of
Hispanic
the
people that
11th hour
support Trump,
bombshell heading
but
into
they
the
don't tell
Senate trial.
anybody.
Of
They're like,
course,
oh,
very
yeah,
much in the
love
book,
Trump,
and you know these new
you know,
allegations that have come out
basis.
from Bolton in recent
Why
weeks
they pull the ballot
with
thing
his
down for
firsthand
them, you know what I'm
knowledge
saying?
of President
Because they
Trump
don't
and
want
his
to hear
dealings
it
with
from their
Ukraine.
their
The
friends
other,
and their
I
family,
think,
you know what I
elephant in
mean?
the room
So,
is Joe
same
Biden.
thing.
Rudy
I mean,
Giuliani has
Trump
suggested that
could
Joe
not have
Biden
won
should be 100%
without the black
should be
Hispanic support that
investigated,
he
he
got.
said, going
It's
forward.
just that they don't want to
So
admit it
there
because
is
they
a
don't
lot
want to
more
get
to come
fucking
still, and
held
this fight is not
exploded, you know what I mean?
necessarily done
Get
in
arguments
terms
with
of
friends and family.
investigations, in
But
terms of
it feels like
allegations. I think
Pelosi's
even
on
the
the
White
same
House
page.
knows
She
that
talks
there
a
is
bunch
more
of
to be
shit.
talked
I
about. There
can't
is
stand
potentially
Donald
more coming.
Trump,
They're not
but then
happy
she
with
does
this Bolton
everything
book
that
coming
just
out
makes
and
her
the slow
stronger,
leak
you
that
know?
we're going to see of information
All right,
coming
I
in the
gotta
next
go.
days, weeks to come.
But we likely will hear from the president next
Gotta get to
days
a
as
restaurant.
well,
I'm gonna text him on
giving
there.
his verdict on the Senate trials. I want to
See
turn
how
it
this
over to
goes.
the
All
panel.
right, thank
Given
you
so
for
much
being here.
information over the course of this trial. Kate Shaw, let me begin with you, Professor Cardozo, School of Law. What's your takeaway from the experience?
Well, the Constitution creates a very high bar for removing a president, right? 2/3 supermajority in the Senate. We've never done it, right? So in some ways, that was never a very realistic possibility going into these proceedings. I think that the sort of verdict of history will take time to come in, but I don't think it's very likely that history will judge this to have been purely an illegitimate and partisan effort, the way the president's defenders would like it to be. In part because of what John Carl was suggesting, you know, the president's members of the president's own party, not just the Mitt Romney defection, but the condemnation of a number of Republican senators, I think makes it hard to suggest that the president's conduct here was above reproach, and that if there was serious misconduct, what the Constitution creates is impeachment, even if conviction is a very difficult bar. So I think there'll be a lot of questions about the strategy that the Democrats use to pursue this impeachment and removal, but there is a degree of condemnation that is coming out of these proceedings that is bipartisan, and that I think is one important takeaway from the perspective of history.
And when we look at this historically, we still don't know exactly what's still to come. And I don't mean regarding investigations in the future. I mean even on the very issue that was being addressed here. We're going to get those additional documents. We're going to hear from people who were there. History will be determined in part by the very information that didn't come out in the trial. That is going to help us determine exactly how it should be viewed, because we're not going to be constrained by time or rules of any kind of evidentiary issues. It's just going to be simply, oh yeah, we got more information that we didn't have at the time, and I think that's going to help shape it. I do think there's going to be a look back strategically at the way Democrats did what they did. Should they have subpoenaed more witnesses earlier, et cetera? But I think that judgment in part will be dictated by what more comes out, and B, the most important issue, which is how does this get viewed politically? If in November 2020 they're doing exit polls and they ask people about impeachment, and the bottom line is that President Trump ends up squeaking it out because there were enough people who were irritated at Democrats about impeachment, well, that's going to be very important historically.
And this is Melissa Murray, constitutional scholar at NYU. This is a unique situation. President Trump, of course, the first president impeached, who's now going to face the voters in November.
Well, so that will be an interesting legacy. What will be the residue of impeachment on President Trump's reelection prospects? But I think the lessons here are twofold. One, I think we've seen the expansion of the unitary executive theory, something that's been building over the course of this presidency. Alan Dershowitz's defense of the president really entrenched it and indeed expanded it. The idea that anything that is good for the president must be in the public interest. We've never seen anything like that. That will certainly be part of executive politics going forward. The other thing I think goes to Kate's point, what is impeachment for? And if impeachment isn't for conviction and removal, but is merely condemnation, is that really the kind of effective check on presidential power that the framers envisioned? They certainly didn't envision this kind of partisan polarization that in this climate, impeachment really could not work.
Chris Christie, let me end with you. Susan Collins, who ultimately voted to acquit the president, the senator from Maine, said as she was making that vote, she believes that President Trump will learn a lesson from this. She now amended that statement to say she hopes he'll learn a lesson from this. Will he learn a lesson from this?
So no one who holds that office wanted to have what just happened right now. And the president clearly is unhappy about this entire process. But I'll say now, probably for the 50th time on this air, what I've said over and over again, this is who he is. And he absolutely believes, because I tell you, he's looked me in the eye and told me that he believes that there was nothing wrong with what he did. And so by that measure, you have to take him at his word, that I don't think that he will take from this that he has to amend his conduct. And I think he believes this is what the people of the country voted for, and the way he's going to continue to conduct himself because they support him and because that's who he is.
I have to ask you a question that I asked him back in June. Do you think it's conceivable that he, in a conversation with a foreign leader, will ask for information for the election?
That I don't believe is conceivable, no. But I think that we're talking about a broader personality here. And that personality we've seen is much different than anybody who's ever occupied that office before. And all of us in this country are adjusting to a new and different approach to the presidency. And so he's not going to change who he is because he believes that it's that personality that got him to the Oval Office. And he believes, and the numbers are now starting to show even more, that people are supporting him even more now. And this was the great risk that Nancy Pelosi understood. I think when you look at the rewrite on this, Nancy Pelosi is going to be seen to be much smarter than her own party thought she was. She saw this coming. She was afraid that if they swung and missed, they'd make him stronger. And at least as we sit here now, 9 months before the election, he looks stronger now than he was when she first decided to go ahead with this last October.
Mary Bruce, let me bring you in as well, senior congressional correspondent. Been there every step of the way up there on Capitol Hill. What lesson has Speaker Pelosi taken? What comes next?
Well, I think the speaker would say that she obviously feels that she made the right decision here, that it was worth doing this, even though, of course, she was reluctant to take this step. But there is no question, especially after the tension between the two of them at last night's State of the Union, very big questions about the lasting damage done here between between the two parties. Look, we are accustomed to bitter partisan fights here in the hall of the Capitol, but what we have seen over the last several weeks has taken that up a notch significantly, and it has laid bare for the entire nation just the depths of that divide. And there will be, I think, a lot of big questions about whether that can be overcome. How can these two sides work together, if at all, going forward? I have to say, George, there is a sense of surviving a very brutal fight here. This has been bruising. The Senate feels exhausted, and this fight, of course, though, will continue. As Mitt Romney says, it is now up to a higher court, the American people.
The American people, and President Trump has weighed in as well, sending out a tweet suggesting that Trump not only in 2020, but up to the year 70,000. Now it's 90,000 and counting. We're going to return now to our regular programming on the network. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, and a full wrap-up tonight on Wellness Tonight with David Muir. The Senate trial of President Donald John Trump has adjourned.
And as I sign out, I would like everybody to please show respect for this president. I know some people do not like this president, but we need to show all kinds of respect to any president that sits in the White House. Thank you. Please like, subscribe to my channel, and all that, and hopefully this has been a very historical day, very educational, and we hope things will get down to business now.